I am
All
now.
right, you got it.
Thank
All right, we're,
Okay,
all
so
right,
Cooking.
Larry
we are
is
cooking.
Rivera. It was a call to order in the seating of the members. Paula, any change to the agenda?
I would suggest we have, and I assume somebody from Fairview Farm South would be joining in. I thought we could take that one up before we did our zoning public hearing.
Well,
They will join later, so I would suggest that you move 7-1 to after 6-1.
okay, I'll make a motion to move item 7.1 to just after item 6.1.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was Alex that,
Correct.
okay.
Rich,
There he is.
Hey, Rich.
Yep. is that unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So next up, it's the minutes of April 27th, 2020. Any corrections, changes? I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any
I'll
discuss-
second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Is everybody here?
Unanimous.
Yes. Okay.
Larry, Alex, myself.
Yes, I was just making sure that everybody had attended the last meeting that voted. Thank you.
Were you all at that
2,
meeting?
3, 4, 5. Yes, we were all.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that said, the audience of citizens for anything to be brought up that isn't already on the agenda? Anybody? No? That said, we're going to move into public hearing mode. First up is an application for Michelle Martineau for a home occupation for equine and canine therapeutic activities, I believe it would be.
Yes. I just wanted to say for the record that we had this meeting scheduled for March 23rd, which that meeting was canceled due to COVID. We then scheduled it for tonight, and the governor's executive orders allows towns to post for public hearings with notice on the website at the same timing as we would have to put in a legal notice. It's voluntary to do a sign on the driveway, and we could also mail to the abutters, the 200-foot in our town abutters. The applicant had already done that mailing and had a sign up, so I felt that the town should take that on. So I did a mailing to all the abutters, the same list that included a notice of where additional information was, how to link to this meeting, and that a copy of the application and the site plan and her statement of use.
Okay.
And I have not heard from any of the members. So we've met the notification.
Any of the abutters or?
No, I did not hear from anybody, and they were certainly notified. They were well notified.
Said members, and I wanted to make clear for the record that it was the neighbors, not the members.
Correct. I'm sorry. Yes, the abutters.
Okay.
So Michelle, I'm going to unmute you. I think you need to, on your screen, do a click.
Okay. Yep.
There you go. So do you want to talk about your application?
Is this for me to start talking?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Yes. So I am certified in equine assisted therapies, and I am a dog trainer, a therapy team trainer, and AKC CGC evaluator. What my not-profit organization wants to do is provide therapeutic animal-assisted therapies. In doing that, we would offer training for therapy teams that would go out and do visits. We would train dogs for emotional support partners for people who have a diagnosis and have a prescription for that. And most recently, we are working with legislators on Bill HR 4305, which will create a category of mental health service dog for veterans. So we are hoping to be one of the chosen providers to train the service dogs for veterans under that plan.
Just a point of order. So we have Rich and Bob in the meeting. You may want to unmute your microphone so that if you need to.
There you go.
Great, thank you.
And we also have Brenda's iPad, I believe, is one of the abutting neighbors. So she you may want to ask if she wants to speak later.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, is anything else to add to the application, Ms. Martineau?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, thank you.
Did you talk? I was busy letting new people in.
Okay.
I wasn't paying attention. Did you talk about your revised statement of use and how many activities per week?
Oh, nope, I didn't know for sure exactly what I needed to discuss here. So originally, we had a larger proposed usage, and there was some resistance to that many visits at our home location. So since then, we have found commercial locations if the need arises to have more visits. So we were able to limit the visits that would happen here at my home property to no more than 5 per week.
And that's for the equine, correct?
That would be equine or canine. Because
Okay.
either or, but a total of 5, regardless of what the purpose.
Okay.
Will there be, I've looked at your application and would all activity of any kind whatsoever be indoors for the dog?
I have outside areas I use when I'm, doing training with my own personal dog. So I would say that, there would be the possibility of using some outdoor space as well, just because it allows for me to use agility equipment. Unless I put up the accessory building, then that would give me the space to do everything indoors.
Could you define in more detail activities? Let me explain the basis for my question. We once gave a dog grooming business a home business occupation permit, and they ended up putting up fencing and boarding dogs. And I know you're not boarding dogs, but having the dogs outside in a fenced area for extended periods of time, and it caused in all sincerity, it was 3 houses away from my house. It was intolerable. I'm very concerned about noise and neighbors. Very, very concerned.
Yes. So, I would not be doing a boarding situation, and I would not be leaving dogs outside for any extended period of time. If they were outside for anything other than potty breaks, it would be for training that I would be working with them.
Okay, so they would be on a leash?
Yes, or a long line. So a long line considered leash, that's like a 50-foot line.
Okay. Yeah, I still have great concerns. We thought we had it well under control when we granted the prior home business permit, and it quickly escalated out of control.
Okay.
I want to support what your concept is, because I admire it, and I think as a group we probably all feel the same way.
Yep.
So I want to know a safe way to accommodate your needs.
And, given everything that has gone after the last few weeks, there are 600 waiting.
And who is that was speaking?
That was, I don't know if she was speaking to us or speaking in the background, but I just unmuted her.
Okay.
We can call on her in a minute.
Okay.
One of the times when you and I were talking, you had said that you were going to be putting some screening to buffer visually to the neighbors. Were you still planning on doing that, or?
Yes, I had a landscaper out, and I did also talk with Frank and Brenda. With the lessened amount of traffic, then we determined that would not be necessary. There is a pretty decent amount of screening now during this period of the year. So we did have a talk, and as long as it was at a lessened amount, that was comfortable.
Who are Frank and Brenda?
The neighbors at 111 Pine.
Okay.
Yes, I have a long driveway, so it comes across their property, not across, but along their property. So, you know, the in and out traffic at the larger number was a concern for them. But
Okay.
we've talked, and as far as I know, we're in agreement that at the reduced number that is not a nuisance.
That was a question I had. I don't know if you're ready for questions, Rick, but
Yeah, I am. Please, everyone, weigh in.
we have two letters here. One was on March 19th
Yeah.
from Brenda and Frank Tomlin. So I think
Excuse
I
me,
can read
Tom,
that.
I want to, let me interrupt for a second. That was before she revised her scope.
That was my question. So
Yeah,
and then the
yeah.
other letter is from 30th of March
Right,
from Veronica Longo.
yep.
So those issues have been resolved. Is that what I'm understanding?
I've not heard from the Longos. I know I've heard from Brenda and her husband.
Okay.
I don't know, the Longos were concerned with
The dogs.
the dogs, and if for how long, and would there be barking and howling? If it's going to be like a kennel, then she would be opposed to the application. So it sounds like it, in my take is that it's not going to be like a kennel. So
Veronica Longo is at 83 Pine, so that's down the street a ways.
I have an ability to share a screen that takes forever to actually do. That's not the one I want. Can you see where
Yeah,
the
I have
plan
that.
here?
Yeah.
The Longos are up in here. They're also their house is up in this area. The
Because
Brenda,
Pine Street's down to the left.
Pine Street's over here. Yep. Whoops.
So where's the house located? The
This is
Tomlin's? Where's
Mrs. Martineau's is here. Tomlin's is here in this area, I believe.
Tomlin's is here. Okay. So
And the Longos are up in here.
I believe the Longos are actually set back behind my property and up
Okay.
further.
okay.
All right.
So Michelle, they're quite a distance from you, really, both of them.
Frank and Brenda are not. They are right in front of me. But like I said, I do believe we are in agreement.
Could you keep that map? I have that map.
That's in our, it's in
Frank,
our,
yeah.
I got it. I'm just, I say right in front. I'm just trying to figure out, and I meant to figure out the actual distance
Mhm.
between Tomlin's and your house, number one. And then where's the activity? The activity to me is going to be in back of your house. Is that correct?
That is the proposed location for an accessory building, yes, if that gets approved.
Okay. Okay. So it is still quite, may not seem it, but it seems like quite a distance to me, but that's just relative. It's a couple hundred feet, isn't it?
Yeah, I would think so.
I think it is, yes.
I do
I'm trying
too.
to share here and it's driving me nuts.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I can't read, the print is too small, Paul.
Yeah, well, no, I think I have the other picture up. This
The
one.
lot's 7 point something acres, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah,
So the-
I mean,
This reference to an accessory building, we're not discussing that now, correct?
Yes, you are. Here's,
That was my next question, Rick.
Okay.
can you see the,
This
My-
just isn't a home occupation request. This is a home occupation with an accessory building. Okay, that wasn't clear from the initial, if I must have missed that, or I'm not sure.
Okay, your property is,
can you see
green.
on,
The green,
yeah, okay.
this is her
Rectangle.
property here.
And Longos are down to the,
This is
Down
Longo
here.
here, correct?
Okay.
That, I thought Longo was the one behind that, the large parcel. That,
Okay,
me.
okay, so up in here, okay.
yeah,
all right,
that, I think that's the
Oh.
home for them.
Okay,
so
all
they're
right,
a long way from
yeah. And this down in here is
Tomlin's.
Tomlin's.
Yeah.
So Longos own all that large parcel all the way around you. Is that what I'm
Yes.
understanding?
Yes,
Mhm.
Because that looks like a substantial amount of land, doesn't it, Rick? Doesn't it?
it does, yes.
It does look substantial. I'm very familiar with 111 Pine in front there.
What are you doing to me now?
Trying to zoom in a little bit. This has the aerial. So this has the driveway is along here,
Yep,
and it goes all the way up into here. And here's her home, and this is the horse barn that's there
and the accessory building would be in back of that,
in back of that,
on the
But-
left.
On
Yeah.
the plan.
which is on her site plan. Yep.
Yeah, it's on the plan. And that's a good sized building too. I can't read that. How big is the proposed building?
60 by 80.
That's what I thought. It's good size.
And it's similar to a hoop house, but not quite a hoop house.
Okay. It's a hoop house for horses.
Yes. You see them frequently as an arena.
Gotcha. Okay. I got it.
So can I stop sharing?
You can.
Okay.
Everyone good with that?
So can I ask, are you going to, when you get that, if you get that proposed building, are you going to have additional animals, additional horses?
No, that would be to have a location to work in weather conditions. So if I'm,
Rain or
doing,
snow?
yeah, right, because it kind of limits what you can do when you only have the barn area.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So it's only going to be your horses, right?
That's correct.
People aren't going to bring their horses there.
There'll be no need to bring any horses here.
Okay.
But you'll be training their dogs, what, one at a
Right.
time? How many dogs at a
Yes.
time training?
So it would be one-on-one appointments if I was working with a person, or I would be training one dog at a time.
So would you have any employees there training other dogs? Would there be a second person training a second dog?
No.
Ever?
No, everyone who is part of the training would be doing their own training at their own homes or their own facilities.
Okay, so training on your property would be one dog at a time,
Yes.
and you would be training it one-on-one,
Yes.
and you'd be boarding it, and they wouldn't be outside unattended. They'd either be on a leash or a long line.
Right.
But you would be outside with them the entire time the dog was out there. The dog would not
Right.
be out on their
No,
own.
I don't leave dogs outside unattended.
Okay. Okay. And so the concerned letters that we had two of them from neighbors. Did they send us a formal retraction of those concerned letters? Or are those the only letters that we have on record, the concerned letters?
We have no other letters on record.
So they did withdraw their concern and send a different letter when
I
the
didn't.
was scaled back.
I did not ask for that.
Okay.
I thought Brenda had sent an email.
Brenda
she had-
sent an email saying that she was okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have communication.
Yeah. And again, the Longo said, as long as they're not living next door to a kennel, they're okay. But they're opposed to it if they're living next door to basically a kennel.
I think as a group, the thing that we have to consider most, in spite of whatever concerns I may have or any other members, and no one else has really expressed concerns, is what we have for comment or attendance here. If somebody had concerns, they certainly had a right to be a part of the meeting here.
And I will ask maybe for Brenda, Mrs. Tomlins to speak.
Okay, I would appreciate that. How's anyone from the commission have questions or anything to say?
Mr. Bob.
Bob does.
Hi, Bob.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Everyone
Yeah.
All right. Okay. On the application, it did say 10 visits per week for dogs, not 5 as you stated. And also there's, for the horses, there's up to 20 visits per week. Is that correct?
Bob, you're looking at the statement that up in the upper right-hand corner, it says to see the next page for the revised version. And on the next page is down to, it was after she had talked to some of the neighbors and she scaled back her operations.
Okay, no problem. Good. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry I missed that. One more question. If we're talking about a proposed building, don't we require sketches of that building?
It just has to meet regulations in terms of setbacks and height. We don't ask for somebody to submit a plan for design review on a garage.
What the height of this building is, do we?
Pardon?
Do we know what the size of this building is?
You're breaking up.
Do we know what the size of this building is?
The size,
Yeah,
yes.
we're good.
The height, I don't know that we know, but that's something that
That's something we need to know.
the ZEO will have to sign off on it. And that's something that she carefully checks.
So do we. We have to sign off on it too, Paul.
Yeah, you might want
You're
to check.
breaking up, Bob.
Check your microphone. We're picking up like every other word.
So they shouldn't be doing this.
Absolutely, you should be there in a room.
I think that another is overpowering Bob's voice.
Yes, I just unmuted I had just muted them.
Okay, let's try this again.
Now
The only dimensions I have are 60 by 80. I do not have a height dimension.
Right. Well, it will meet the zoning regulations.
I know, but we'd like to see it.
We are the Planning and Zoning Commission. We should know what those are.
Your veterinarian for Applebaum. Next to you, Applebaum is the dog's best friend.
Who's talking in the background?
I don't know.
It may be me because I've never done this before.
Okay.
Brenda Tomlins.
Okay, yes. Is there
All right.
something that you would want to, while we have you, do you want to say something about the application?
Yes, I would like to say, I spoke with Michelle before she revised her new application. And she assured me that there would be no more traffic than normal up and down my property line. So I would like that for the record with the town. Other than that, I have no objections.
Okay, I'd like to get Bob Powell's question in and get that addressed before we go into full-blown public question and comment mode.
Bob, you're
You're
muted
muted,
again.
Bob.
Yeah, my question is, what's the height of the building? It's not
The
shown on
maximum, the maximum is 35 feet for that zone.
what is being,
I think Bob's asking, he'd like to know what's proposed. We'd like to know more information about this proposed building. This is a pretty expansive use in a residential zone. The more information we have, the better. And even the site plan that we have is relatively simply drawn. It only looks in some ways, well, it's relatively simply drawn. We don't have a lot of detail on it.
That's my fault. I told her, as we do with most home applicants, it's drawn to scale. And we work with folks to not have them have a lot of costs in applying for something.
Well,
the concern I have is that the building is on the setback line And I think we should at least know what the height is and possibly what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, have we ever had a residential building this size on the setback line? It's a very substantial structure, I think, but we don't know.
This building would or not have a foundation. If it's a loop building, I'm assuming it doesn't.
What I was looking at did not have a foundation.
Just dirt floor.
Right.
Hey, Brenda, do you have any idea how, just a general idea how high it is, how tall it is?
She showed me an image. I'm not Michelle. She showed me an image and it looked like it was about 25 feet.
And as far as the building goes, it is not necessary now that I have found commercial locations that I could rent. So that doesn't have to be a make or break point for this application.
I don't want a commercial building that looks commercial. If it's 45 feet high, that's too much.
It's 25.
Yes, could we know who's speaking?
Brenda, is that, are you?
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking, is this going to be like a commercial building?
Yeah, can we make sure, Jake, a point of order here, a matter of protocol, I think it's important that either the town planner or myself recognize each speaker and identify who's speaking for this format, and otherwise have the microphone muted so that we know precisely who's saying what about what.
Okay.
In this case, is this Brenda? And Brenda's
It is, yes.
And then for the record, we'd like your first name and last name and address for the record if you're going to speak to this. But are all the members of the commission okay with us going to public comments at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's recognize one member of the public at a time, make clear who it is, what their address is, and then they have the floor.
Okay. Do you want me to speak?
If you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay, Brenda and Frank Tomlins, 111 Pine Street,
Thank you.
Columbia. Our concerns was the amount of traffic which would be coming up and down our property line. And Michelle revised her app and said that there'd be no more than regular, what goes in and out regularly. It would not change. And now my question now is this going to be a commercial building that is being proposed?
And I would ask Ms. Martineau to please respond to that. It's because we really don't know precisely what it's going to be. We have a general idea at this point.
Oh, okay. All right.
At this point, I'm okay with moving forward with the application and removing the accessory building, as I have found commercial locations that I could operate out of in the need for such building.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Are we all set on that? Is there any other member of the public that has a question or would like to speak about this? We have another, I see it. We need the background noise off if you're going to speak at the meeting. Please turn everything off in the background and then we'll recognize you, and then please announce who you are, your first name, last name, and your property address, and then we'll recognize you.
Feedback.
Okay, let's just, we tried there, but
Yep.
this is for the person at 860-337-0142. If you would like to speak, to turn off anything in the background. and just speak with a quiet background and state who you are.
It sounds like he has two microphones going, or he's talking into a phone and a microphone at the same time.
Yeah, it does.
I agree.
Okay, so that's no longer a member of the meeting. All right, so that said, we had a person identified as Brenda who spoke about this. Anything else from commission members?
Yeah, Rick, what Brenda was saying I just don't want this to be misunderstood. She's saying the traffic, when she talked to Michelle, the traffic would be the same as normal. Well, it doesn't sound like it's going to be quite the same as normal. You know what I'm saying? If I think the proposal is very good and I like what she's doing, but I don't want the Tomlins to get the idea that the traffic is going to be exactly the way it is now, because it's not going to be, in my opinion. And the other point that I'd like to make and discuss with you guys too is that, again, I think I like this proposal, don't get me wrong, but, you know, we run into the situation where this is what we're getting today, and then 2 years down the line, we've got the accessory building going up, and then we've got a commercial activity. This is how it seems sometimes we get in trouble. That's
Yeah,
my
Ms.
concern.
Martineau, just so you understand the concern here, it's a residential neighborhood, and we don't lose any element of that residential nature. And a home business is an accommodation to help people make a living with nominal additional expense. And we want to be supportive of that. And we are supportive of that, especially with the mission. We think, you know, with what you're aiming at, who you
It's
serve,
great.
we want to bend over backwards, but we don't want the neighbors to pay a cost. And we don't want them to pay a cost visually. I'm really concerned about that large a structure on a property line, and not a property line, on a setback line. So if that's part of the application that's now formally withdrawn, and I don't know procedurally, Paula, if that's a sufficient way to address it, or if we're going to approve this, we can address it with that caveat. But the level of indicated usage, I feel comfortable with, and all of the things that have gone on record. And I would like to, if everyone's inclined to support in concept what's been proposed minus the proposed building, and with the restated lower level of usage, meaning the 5 trips indicated, not the number 10 as before, I would like to do that, but I don't like messy on the fly approvals with lots of crafted things. I would hope to continue this to our next meeting and address it formally with a suggested motion that can be well crafted, that we can read and understand precisely what we're aiming at.
I sent you one, Rick,
Okay. With all of
earlier today.
that include the removal of the proposed building?
No, because I didn't know that was being removed, but you can just not say those words.
I'm sorry, I didn't check email earlier today. I just have
Okay.
it sent out. And I'm going to be hard pressed now to
Okay.
sort 400 emails that came in the last 2 days.
Yeah, I sent it 10 or 11 o'clock this morning.
Okay, did everyone receive that?
No, I can't send it to everyone unless it's posted 24 hours ahead of time on the website.
So no one else has seen this?
No.
So I'd be more inclined to wait and continue this to our next meeting so we can continue this in context. Because I think some of the worst things that we've done as a commission is to make a hasty decision on the fly to put something together and not have enough time to consider it. But I really want to hear from everyone on the commission how they feel. And I'd be happy to read aloud the motion, not to propose it as a motion, but so they can hear what was proposed. And I'll look for it in my email.
And I have it. I can share it on my screen.
Oh, that would be
I have to get to it. I'm working on it. Share my screen.
I've got it here.
You found it? Okay.
Okay. I'm going to read it out loud, not as a motion, but just for information for the commission. The wording was, motion to approve the application of Michelle Martineau for a home occupation for equine and canine therapeutic activities at 113 Pine Street, Assessors Map 33, Lot 3B, based the application, site plan, and statements made at the hearing, and the revised statement of use specifically for no more than 5 equine visits per week, inside canine training 5 days per week with no boarding of dogs, operating hours to limited between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., and proposed additional accessory building to conduct indoor equine therapy sessions. And then in brackets, and the proposed visual screening to abutting property. So the potential motion would eliminate any reference to the additional accessory building to conduct indoor equine therapy sessions for the additional building, and be very specific to state that that's no longer part of the application and we're in no way approving it. So.
The neighbor also indicated, I'm sorry. I thought the neighbor also said that at the 5 visits per week, she didn't believe that the additional screening was necessary.
Okay.
I think it would be good to check back with Mrs. Tomlin's, and because she had said that it would be no additional activity beyond what's currently, and even if it's 1 car in and out a day, that is more. And just, you might want to ask while she's here.
Yeah, Tomlin, could you unmute her?
She has to unmute herself.
Mrs. Tomlin?
Yes, yes, yes.
So you're saying yes to?
Okay, say that again. You were talking about the screening?
We're asking your perspective
No.
on. Tom, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. She's not on the same page with us.
Okay. So
Do you
the
want me
question,
to?
Hello? Yeah.
so we have a question out there to you. I'm talking to Mrs. Tomlin right now about what your perspective is with regard to the need for screening based on the current application as it's been revised to the.
Right now, there really isn't a problem because there's leaves and, on the trees, and there's no, we really don't see the house. But when the leaves fall off, then that probably would be another question
So
to deal with.
We're asking for a concise answer about what your perspective is. Do you feel it's needed or do you not feel it's needed as it was proposed, the additional screening? We just want to hear what you have to say about it.
Okay, let my husband talk. You can talk.
Okay.
This is Mr. Tomlins.
And your
I would love to have a little bit more screening, and the size of the building concerns me for the height. And
I don't know if you've been following our discussion here. That's off the table now. The additional building is off the table.
okay, Michelle said she would work with me to have some screening, and my concern is never to have it look commercial, and she assures me that she would do her best. It's her home, and if she was willing to put up some screening or
So I'm looking for as concise a perspective from you as we can get. So is it that you don't feel additional screening is necessary, or you do feel additional screening is necessary, given that the accessory building is now off the table and the number of visits were revised from the initial proposal?
I would like some additional screening if possible.
Okay.
And if the accessory building is off the table, it's not as important to have that. But I would like a little bit of a separate screening if there's more cars.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your input very much. Yeah.
May I ask Mrs. Tomlin
Yes.
a follow-up?
Pardon?
Could
I'd like
somebody
to ask Mrs. Tomlin's a follow-up.
that phone ringing in the background?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't help
shut
it.
it
The
off,
phone,
then. I'll
okay.
shut it off.
Okay, the follow, what do you mean the follow-up?
I would like to ask, in this conversation, one of the things that you had said earlier is that you were fine with this as long as there was no additional traffic.
Right,
But by having up to five visits a week, that could be, 5 cars going in and 5 cars coming out.
right.
And you
Once a
had said-
day, I have no problem with that.
Okay. How about twice a day and then nothing for the next day?
That's fine.
Okay. I just wanted some clarity on because you had said you wanted no additional traffic, and it just by adding 5 is actually some additional. All right, thank you for clarifying.
Rick, do we need something in writing from the Tomlins that says that up to 5 visits during the course of a 7-day period, regardless of how many on one given day? Do we need something so that, down the line, we don't have this bite us?
I have an email from Mrs. Tomlins that says that based on the statement of use, the revised statement of use, she was okay with it. I don't remember the exact quote, but it was.
Well, I think
we've changed a number of things tonight, and
that's why I don't like taking action on something like this until the proposed motion can go out to all members, and that everything is settled. That's why I was trying to be so specific with the Tom and Ms. Martineau. Ms. Martineau, please understand, I love what you're doing, and we want to help you get across the finish line, but we want to do it in a way that protects the neighbors, because this is an approval that goes with the land, not with you.
Okay.
So if you move away, the next person who lives there has that same approval on record. So that said, because our approvals are not for people, they're for property. And so we're very protective to make sure the scope of what's proposed is going to be long-term, well-suited for the property, not for you and not for your neighbor, but for the property versus the property. And we're very careful about that because we've seen usage escalate, and we like to be very specific, which is why I was asking the very specific question about the Tomlin's perspective, because we want to take that into account as we grant this. And think of it as their land's perspective on your land.
Hey, Rick, can I add?
Excuse me.
Please do.
Excuse me, this is Mr. Tomlins.
Hold on a moment, sir. Mr. Curry was asking a question.
Okay.
I just think I would feel more comfortable if we had something from the Tomlins based on the information that was received at tonight's meeting. The June 22nd meeting, you understand what I'm saying? I don't want it from the prior discussions. We've gone through a number of things tonight. Just so it's on as of tonight, as of the information that was given based on what Michelle has given us, that this is what they understand and this is what they're okay with.
Okay, I understand what you're asking. Mr. Tomlin, sir?
Yes. My concern is, I believe what Michelle is saying, and I would be willing to work with her. But if this goes with the land, the next person may be outrageously not willing to work with me as a neighbor. And I'm not going to mention names, but there's trouble right along the street here with people that aren't happy with their neighbor running a business. So that changes the whole perspective, even though I would love to see Michelle do this. Is there a way to do it where it doesn't go with the land and it goes only with Michelle?
No, that's our prime function, is to regulate land use in essence. So we don't grant people permits, we grant permits to the land. And so that's why I explained it that way, which is why I'm trying to be so specific about what your input was and what the proposed usage was and so on. And I mean, all the members are quite aware of it. We work with this all the time, but I would like to be very careful to explain to us, a member of the public who doesn't necessarily interact on these issues, precisely the nature of what the regulations are and what our scope of authority is. And so that's why we like to be slow and methodical, unfortunately, sometimes in deciding precisely what we're granting permission, because once we grant it, for the most part, we can't take it back. And
as you know, some neighbors are not very cooperative with each other. And that concerns me if somebody else bought the business and wasn't a good neighbor.
so we want the scope of what we authorize to be reasonable and well-defined, so that, well, I guess what you have to say is maybe we don't have somebody as accommodating as Ms. Martineau as your neighbor, and we have to make whatever approval, if we grant it, such that it doesn't hurt you when there's a neighbor there that is different than this in an approach, but we have to make the assumption that they're staying within the scope of the authorization, because if they're not, then that becomes a zoning enforcement issue. So again, what we're trying to do here is just be careful, so we just don't open up Pandora's box.
Well,
One example would be this
a
issue about
commercial
buffer.
business behind my house concerns me.
I understand, you've expressed that. Mr. Powell? Bob?
Yes, one concern that the abutting property owner may consider is that if he's talking about a buffer with Ms. Martineau, he should be very specific about what that buffer is going to be, because that's going to be part of the approval. If it's 5 trees, it's fine. If it's 10 trees, whatever it's going to be, not just some abstract buffer comment that I'll work with the neighbor to establish a buffer. It should be very specific so that it protects both property owners.
And the location on the site plan should be specified as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to impose a financial burden to doing this, but if you could say, I propose 10 white pine trees that are this size in these specific locations. Once that's on the site plan, if for some reason a few of them die off, they've got to get replanted if the neighbor says, look, the site plan said this, but they're not there anymore.
Is that something I need to put on the site plan, or is that something we want Frank and Brenda to decide what is satisfactory to them?
You would offer a resolution if you have a discussion and they're in approval of what you've proposed. Then we would ask them to weigh in with a comment or a letter. We can keep it simple. And
Okay.
People use white pines typically because they grow very quickly, and they can be, just side by side. They don't do much, but if you stagger them in such a way that they kind of overlap each other in a zigzag, that tends to promote a more viable buffer. And far enough away from the property boundary so that whatever maintenance they require doesn't cause maintenance on your neighbor's property. And I mention it because, as I understand it, and Bob, you might weigh in on this, Bob Powell, it's one of the most affordable ways of creating a viable buffer that grows up relatively quickly. They're just not that expensive to buy the trees.
So I would think, Michelle, you would want to meet with your neighbors and actually point to the places where the two of you agree that some screening should be. And then on your site plan, mark it down on your site plan and submit it back in.
Okay.
And you don't need to go
tomorrow.
back to plot out where you're going to put them. If you meet with your neighbors and you can come to some understanding what will minimize their concerns, and I think their concerns are reasonable, and I think your approach is reasonable. But we just want to do this the right way and document it the right way so that it's not a problem in the future.
Okay.
I have one other question, if I could.
Sure. Mr. Tomlin?
How strict are you enforcing the businesses in a residential neighborhood? If somebody is not following,
I would just like to stress this application specifically. I don't want to make any broad inquiries about other things. This is a public hearing about this application. So if you could please, if you have a general question, you can bring it up in the public comment section and have pose a question there. And the other thing too is we're not an enforcement agency. We are a legislative agency and we approve things. So if there's a question about enforcement, you may do better to direct that to our zoning enforcement officer.
All right.
Tomlin, okay? Any other thoughts from commission members? I propose that we continue this to our next scheduled meeting, which is 2 weeks.
I'm not sure it's 2 weeks. We've got one more application. We can, certainly. We have another application coming in, and I would just as soon try to time those two together.
I just don't see us taking action on this tonight.
No, I'm just saying, don't say that the meeting 2 weeks from now. Just a meeting in July, I would suggest.
Or whenever our next meeting is,
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
That's a legal definition that will
Okay.
hold up.
All right. Thanks.
What do we schedule? And then we inform the applicant and verbally inform the neighbor so they know what's going on. But Ms. Martineau, you have any questions? So what we're looking for, so we're very clear, we'll revise, make sure you send a note or something to our town planner stating that you're removing from the application the new accessory building and that you don't have to reference the buffer at that point in time, but prior to the next time we meet and that we are continuing this public hearing to, if you could come up with some kind of not overly formalized input from the Tomlins, they can be at the participating in the meeting, or they could just write a letter commenting. And if you've worked out a specific plan that seems to make sense for them, for their property, I say them, it's your property proposing this for their property. And that's, if you think of it in those terms, that's probably an easier concept for everyone to grasp. It's property to property. And that would be probably all we really need to do. And I wish we could give approval on this tonight, but I'd really like a really nice, clean approach to this. So exactly what's proposed is understood by us and by your neighbor, and that we have their perspective on what's proposed. And also the rest of the commission, obviously, their perspective very clearly weighed in on. Any members of the commission have anything else, any thoughts on this?
Before you make a motion to continue the hearing, there's someone has joined us, G. Harrigan, and I don't know if he or she would like to speak to this topic.
I would like to know that quickly because I'd like to keep the meeting moving and the meeting starts.
Right.
No, I don't have anything. I just wanted to view the meeting.
Sure. Just for the record, for procedural, please state your first name, last name, and your property address.
First name Gary, last name is Harrigan, property address 95 Pine Street.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harrigan.
Thank you.
And your comment, your microphone is muted. Are you speaking on this topic? Your microphone is muted. We can't hear you. Okay, let's move on.
I will try and get in touch with him to let him know that when the new date of the meeting is.
Mr. Harrigan, are you there? Okay, let's assume that he isn't. So let's make a motion to continue this public hearing. How specific do we need to be legally compliant? Because usually we do it continued to a specific day and time and location. We're not going to reference location.
To the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is sufficient.
Okay, so I'll make a motion. We continue this public hearing to our next Planning and Zoning meeting.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any negatives? So that would be unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Martineau, and thank you to your neighbors, and thank you for the comments we received. We really appreciate those.
And I will follow up with both of them later this week.
Thank you, Paula. I appreciate it. Okay, next up, bear with me. I should have had.
Item 7.1.
Item 7.1 is new business item. Discussion and possible action. Fairview Farm South, a request to post a bond for cistern installation.
Did everyone get a chance to read the memorandum?
Yep.
I got the estimate. And the estimate, I'm going to try and pull this up. The estimate was a shocker. I thought it was going to be in the 30-ish range, and it ended up in the 83,000.
What?
Yeah.
How many gallons?
It's the problem is we had Anchor Engineering do the estimate, and they could not find a contractor to do anything other than a concrete cistern, and the concrete cistern requires a crane to lift it in. So it gets more and more expensive. So that's the problem.
Did they do a cistern on Wellswood Road?
Yes.
And how, do you have any recollection as to how large that one was?
Oh, they're 15 is what's required, and that's what this one is too, is 15.
Was it in the $35,000 to $40,000 range?
I checked with the developer of that, and that's the number that they had said about 45.
Okay.
So I was pretty surprised.
So,
and I am sharing with you, I believe. Can't believe it takes me as long as it does to share. This is the.
you zoom in on that and make it bigger.
I'm trying. There we go. So I 81. I got this on Friday. I sent it to the surveyor and to the developer. The surveyor that's been working on the project and the developer. I looked online as a layperson, just going through looking for fiberglass tanks, and the places where you can obtain one is in Colorado, Texas. So it's, and they're like 20 grand, but yet then you have to ship it here. And there isn't a contractor that Anchor Engineering could find that would work with a fiberglass.
So why is it that we're doing this and not the developer?
We're not doing this. We're taking a bond in case the developer doesn't do it.
So, so are you just trying to verify the figures that they gave you? Why would you be exploring lower cost options? Would
I was floored. I just didn't think it was 81.
Yeah, I don't that, you know, there's really something wrong with our regulation that requires some developer to, I'm flabbergasted.
Now, maybe the developer will actually be able to find somebody to do a fiberglass and ship it. And then the crane, the 13,000 would not be in there. And I think that the actual tank would cost less than 43. But that's what we have. I sent it to Rob Hellstrom as the surveyor. I sent them to Rob and Joe Petrowski and asked them if they had any questions or comments, and I heard nothing back.
And so refresh me, I don't mean to monopolize this, everybody on the commission. So refresh me as to, wouldn't this have been a part of the plan for the subdivision?
Yes.
And I just don't recollect this, and I'm in all sincerity.
Well, let me maybe read my memorandum. Can I take this off because it's jumped in?
Yeah, I have the memorandum.
the condition of approval was that before any lots were sold, that the cistern be in place. When the first lot was sold, and I had reminded them and their attorney. So all of a sudden, a lot was sold in this past February. So I got in touch with the developer, and I
assume the person who bought that lot cannot pull a building permit because
correct.
conditions of approval were not met. Okay.
Because it's a non-conforming lot at this point, a non-compliant lot. And so after the first lot was sold, I told him that I didn't want to impact any future sales. And within a day or two, I had a contractor calling me, trying to get all the specs and all that. So it seemed like the developer was moving forward. So I did get in touch with the developer and thanked him for moving forward. And then another lot was sold, and I wrote the developer and said that we would not be able to issue building permits for any of the lots, either of the two sold lots, because they're non-complying. And that got his surveyor, who was the agent for the subdivision. He contacted me and said that the developer wanted to post a bond for the cistern installation so the permits could be approved. The regulations, the subdivision regulations give the commission the power to require a bond for different things, but it's silent in the case of a developer offering to post a bond. And I verified with the town attorney that the commission can consider accepting a bond, and that it's something that other towns do. So it would be after the subdivision were approved for the cistern to be installed. So the suggested motion is fairly lengthy. I don't know if you would do a surety bond or a cash bond, but we have the dollar amount now, and I think there should be a date towards the end of the motion is another blank line that I think that should be the date of when you would want it completed before we would take action. And that's another reason why this bond has to be high enough, because if the town is stepping in to do it, we need to be able to cover our costs.
Is the developer and owner of the lots violating state statute by offering them for sale because they're technically not compliant at this point?
The developer technically is.
Yeah, so technically, I think it might be a criminal violation, but I'm not sure of that. Certainly it is a civil issue. And I would imagine that they're in deep trouble if they're selling these as approved building lots, when in fact they're not until after the cistern's installed. I feel for them. That is a number that is mind-boggling ability to comprehend right now. Because I remember thinking it was a big number on Wellswood Road when that was done, and that was done in lieu of the expense of putting a sprinkler system in each house. It was a cheaper approach for the developer there. It's and I at Hunter's Ridge, I think is there a cistern there?
Yes. Yep. I did not ask Walt how much that one cost.
That would be, well.
But we've got an estimate, which is what we need to go by.
So well, we have an estimate. Did the developer ever come forward with their own estimate?
No.
And are they this number?
They need to get a cistern in, and they asked for the commission to allow them to place a bond, and they would do the cistern soon, but they didn't want to hold up the building permits.
But they never came forward with their own estimate of cost. So they have no idea what this cost is, or
I sent them the estimate. I sent Rob Hellstrom and Joe Petrowski via email that estimate.
Okay.
The detail, not just the number.
Have you heard back from them?
Nope, not heard a word.
Okay, how long ago did you send that?
I got this on Friday, so I sent it.
So they haven't had a lot of time to get over the shock.
Well, they knew we were meeting tonight.
So we
There's
have
no
no,
requirement that we make a decision tonight, or you make a decision tonight?
yeah, I'm not comfortable making a decision tonight. I'd like them a chance to address this, give them a
Yeah.
chance to address it, because we got our own estimate, but I wish we hadn't gotten an estimate until after we saw something from them.
Well, if they have an estimate, they should move forward with it. If they have an estimate and then don't follow through, we would then need to do it, and maybe their estimate wouldn't hold for us.
I understand. I don't want to do their job for them. That's where I'm at.
I don't either. I
So let's
agree.
let's not do it. Let's throw it back in their lap to come forward to us with a proposal that makes sense. And also, I would suggest that Connie consider some sort of zoning enforcement action to serve notice that they do not have a right to sell these lots, and they're probably violating a state statute by selling them. It's one thing to offer them. Now they're actually selling them. There could be all kinds of issues that are not zoning issues. They could be civil issues, they could be criminal issues. But if they're violating, you know, I don't know what the scope of our authority is to address this as a zoning commission, or or the ZEO to address it on that basis. But I certainly would suggest to the applicant that they may be in real.
Yeah, but Rick, not to interrupt, but they could do a reservation, and I don't think they'd be in violation. Rather than a purchase and sale.
They're proceeding closing. They've taken money for these lots.
The 2 lots have closed.
Two lots they took money for and closed on, and they
closed on it?
Yep.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, very different.
That's trouble.
Yeah, this could be big trouble. I mean, if I had forked out $100 grand for a lot that I was told was an approved building lot, and now can't build on it.
Yeah, that's trouble.
That becomes either criminal or civil or both.
It's a fraud.
So are you inclined to not consider a performance bond? Not consider accepting a performance bond?
I throw it entirely back in the applicant's lap and let them come to us with what they are proposing, and let them do all the legwork, and let them provide the documentation as to what they think is a reasonable number. Then you can call and verify. But to go out and do research for them, that's not what our job is here. That's the applicant's job. Bob?
Well, I would still want to verify.
Paul, I recognize Bob.
Yes, one of the things that we have to be careful of is, you know, the minute you start mentioning that you think it might be illegal, we cannot take any action whatsoever, because then we're complicit with the illegal action.
Well, I understand. What we can take action is enforcing the terms of our approval.
But if there's any sense of impropriety going on here, we just simply cannot take action. Throw it back to the developer's lap, let him deal with it. And also, we don't design systems.
That's well put. That's the stance I'm taking here. Is it's not our job to sort out this mess that the developer has made. Does everyone feel the same way? Anyone feel differently?
No, I agree.
Would you care to make a motion?
I just take no action on it. Tell him that it's in his lap, implying he is the developer, and that he has a problem to resolve, and we'll work with him to help approve his solution to this. But
I think this was his solution. I'm sorry I interrupted.
His solution was to have you shop for the cost of cisterns?
No, his solution was to have the town accept a performance bond. It's the town's job to then figure out what that bond should be.
Well, I think it's reasonable to expect him to provide some documentation and help so that we don't have this problem thrown in our lap. You know, I would like to see a quote or multiple quotes from contractors that he plans to use to do this. And then we can take that information and come to a more timely perspective on what action we should take.
That is what Anchor Engineering did, was get quotes.
Anchor Engineering works for the developer or for
Works
us?
for us. That's the town attorney, a town
So I'm going to go back
engineer.
to what I said. I don't think it was Anchor Engineering's responsibility to come up with a solution for the developer.
Well, then it's my fault for asking them to tell me the dollar amount of the performance bond. So I'm the one that gets the blame.
Oh, it's not about blame. What I'm trying to say is, as a method or as a procedural approach to this, when an applicant comes forward and they want to have a performance bond, have them provide the bulk of the data, and then we can verify. We don't have to create a solution for them.
I'm not capable, and a town staff really isn't capable of verifying that the dollar amount is correct. I would then turn it over, whatever is submitted, I would turn over to Anchor Engineering for their verification. And if they could not find a firm that would do it for less with a fiberglass, then this is.
No. Our engineering company doesn't go out and look for a cheaper option for the applicant.
No, it looks for, they're just going to verify that, yes, this looks good, whether or not this company really would do it.
That's what we would ask them to do after that was proposed to us by
Yeah.
But that's not how this happened.
No, I realize that, and that's I apologize. I did not do it.
Do that, Paul.
Right,
Just clear about what we are looking for and what we expect as a committee.
Okay.
And what we're looking for is for the solution to be solved by the applicant.
Okay. All right.
All we need to do is verify that we're comfortable accepting that proposed solution, and it's a matter of verifying that what they've said to us is accurate. But to go out and contact vendors to find out what the cost of solutions are, that's the applicant's responsibility, not yours, and not our engineering company either. We would welcome whatever input the engineering company provides to us to verify that we're going to sign off on something that doesn't commit the town to some kind of financial liability.
Right.
But that's step 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So
I honestly disagree with you, because I think it's we need to verify independently what the dollar amount should be.
Verify. I said the solution be proposed by the applicant.
Okay.
And then,
I will get in touch with them and have them do that.
You know, it's not our job to resolve their problem. It's their job to resolve it. And then it's our job to verify whatever they're proposing to us after they've proposed it.
Are you comfortable accepting a performance bond in the amount to be determined at a future meeting?
How does everyone else feel about a performance bond? I'm fine with it.
Well, that was a question I had, by posting the performance bond, does that mean they can now legally sell the lots as being compliant?
And we can issue, and we can issue.
Building permits too.
Yeah.
But they can't pull the,
not until the bond is in place. Not until the bond is in place.
So somebody could build a permit, pull a permit, build a house, have it burned down, and the cistern isn't installed yet because there's a bond in place.
Well, there's a time limit and it's the cistern. It's not the fire department's first source of water, but yes, you're right. I mean, technically, if the cistern's not there.
I don't think they can issue a building permit without the cistern.
Yeah, I don't see.
That was my question.
Okay. All right.
Being issued under any circumstances
okay.
for the 2 lots that are already sold or any future lots till after the cistern is installed and verified.
Okay.
There's your fire safety right there. They can't go any farther until it's done. So.
And I would appreciate a motion to that, because that's basically what the crux of this is.
Well,
they were looking for a performance bond.
Why do we need a motion? That's just the way the rules read. It's already.
Okay. So.
You could verify this with the building official, but I'm sure, I think it's in the building code where you have to have a source of fire suppression before a certificate of occupancy is issued.
No, I don't believe so. We have a fire department.
I said the building department, not the fire department.
I will check. I will check.
Okay, I don't take any action on this. I just don't want stuff thrown in our lap when it's not.
So I guess my question is, and I'm keep interrupting, I'm sorry, I've had too much caffeine today. So I'm supposed to ask them to have a solution for us, but yet you're not going to let him issue a building permit until the cistern's in. So they don't need to bond anything.
Well, he hasn't finished the subdivision.
Yet, so I should not be asking him for his own estimate. I should be telling him that he needs to have the cistern in before we can issue a building permit.
Well, we would consider if he came back to us, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
We do not issue building permits. We
The
don't,
town does. No, you don't. No.
so we can't make any statement regarding a building permit. It's not our purview.
Right.
But we conditioned approval on a cistern being in place. Now, if he came back to us and said, how about if I can sell the lots, but no building permits are issued based on me having a bond in place, and we would work out a specific solution, but he needs to propose it. It's not up to us to solve his messing up.
I will have him attend the next meeting. I think that will be very helpful.
Yeah,
He
it
or
would be
Rob,
helpful.
one or the other.
But I think you should send a clear message saying that the commission doesn't feel it's their job to resolve your non-compliance. It's up to you to propose a solution, and we'll work with you. We're here to help. We're not here to cause you problems, but we didn't cause any of these problems. You caused them by not being compliant with the terms of the approval.
I have a question, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have not approved the subdivision yet, have we?
Oh, yeah, it's approved. And the cistern, and I'm going from the records, I don't recollect the specifics of our approval other than what Paula has provided us for documentation. But the part of the approval of the subdivision was a cistern. It would be like, we also proposed that if there was a road proposed, it would be like letting them selling building lots when there was a dirt pathway to the lots.
We do allow building permits because we accept a performance bond on the road, and building permits are issued even though the road isn't complete. And that's what we did through Hunter's Ridge.
Okay. So we're willing to accept performance bonds, but we don't, our job is to verify. And then if we're not comfortable with a proposal, then we can do our research. But to do the research, I mean, have they provided any research on what their look into what a cost of a cistern was or anything? Have they proposed anything?
No.
So that's what I would ask. I would ask that they do.
I will do that. I will do that tomorrow.
And I appreciate the work you've done. So now we have our research already done, but let him forward with a solution, because for us to approve something that we don't even know that he's really going to be able to comply with.
Who required the cistern?
Your subdivision regulations.
Okay.
Yeah, we put that into our subdivision regulations.
Any subdivision of three lots or more has to have a 15,000 gallon cistern.
Ouch. I'm just trying to figure out how this one got to 80,000 bucks from the 35. As I understood it, it was about $2 between $1.50 and $2 per gallon to install a cistern. Now we're up to $6.
It seems way out of line.
Yeah.
And it's because it's concrete and not fiberglass. And if they find a contractor that will do it fiberglass and it's 30, I would be hesitant for the town to just accept a $30,000 bond, because we may be on the hook for 81.
Well, we haven't gotten that far. They need to put something first. Okay.
Okay.
Good. Everyone agree on our course of action here?
Yes.
Basically, to do nothing. I don't think we need a motion. I think what we expect out of the developer is already set out in our subdivision regulations. And I would, respectfully suggest, Paula, that you caution them that they're possibly on very shaky legal ground to be offering the lots, let alone actually closing on selling lots that are without full disclosure on this. That's really not a zoning. That becomes a civil or a criminal issue. Okay.
Okay.
Are All right, next up is
We're back to our public hearings.
public hearings. So we're going to open a public hearing on the, so formally, we're going to table any action on this to our next meeting. The item 7.1 I'm talking about.
Yes,
So
yes.
next up is open a public hearing for the proposed zoning regulation revisions to sections 8.5, 6.1, and 61 and 65.
You can see the public is clamoring to speak. I've had some thought, home occupations, this was ready to go to the public hearing on March 23rd. And since that time, Connie and I both have gotten some home occupation queries that make me think about a couple tweaks that I would like to do to the home occupation while the hearing is open. But I would like to not even discuss that particular one tonight. The other two I think are fairly ready to go, but we can hold off on all of them, but we can discuss them if you like or whatever.
Evening. And maybe we have a meeting when we have no other business, we can actually meet.
Okay.
We haven't had a lot lately. Miss you all, by the way. So, and just getting some perspective on these, I haven't gone through these in a lot of detail anyway. So that being said, so we will open the public hearing and we have an unlimited time to keep it open.
Yes,
correct?
we do. Yes, because it's us. We're asking ourselves. So we don't have time limits.
Okay. So we'll open the public hearing. We will continue that to our next regular meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
Is everyone good with that?
good with that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll skip past item 8 now under regulation revisions.
Actually, no, because I got an email from Steve Blanchard that I will work on.
Disclose where this came from. And I would ask to know from each member of the commission if they feel that I should recuse myself, because I do a lot of business with the Blanchards. I represent them in selling new home construction, but they have, and I don't want to speak for them because that's not appropriate either, because I'm a member of the commission. And so I don't feel it's a conflict for me, but if you feel it is, you can even tell me offline. And if even one member of the commission feels it's any type of conflict for me, I will gladly step aside and not weigh in on this. But it has to do with the height limitations we have, and they like to build normal sized colonial homes. Well, you can read into the record, the letter that they sent us, because it's not in our packet.
Actually, I have it. I think I have it on the screen.
Okay. I will let the letter speak for itself. They asked me about this and I suggested that they write a letter to the commission explaining what they were looking for. So they're looking to be able to build a 12 pitch roof on a normal size 2-story colonial home with a walkout basement.
Which gets very, on a steeply sloped lot, the way we measure average slope makes it next to impossible to do a 12/12.
Right.
Steeply sloped and narrow. I'm not sure we have too many places in town other than the driving down Hunter's Ridge on the right-hand side, those lots along there. So he did write us a letter saying who he was and that he looks forward to more new homes to be constructed by him in town. And he said, I'd like to request that the Columbia Planning and Zoning Commission review and consider modifying the height restriction of 35 feet for residential structures. We understand the need for this height limitation in many circumstances, i.e. non-conforming lots, lakefront lots, especially on a non-conforming sloping lot. We have found that many of the home designs that we use when dealing with a typical size home, colonials, that have a 28-foot depth and a 12/12 pitch roof, a roof pitch that we feel gives a great look, minimizes snow loading issues, and promotes longer roof life, combined with the potential for a walkout basement that many home buyers prefer, exceeds the 35 height limitation. we can meet the 35-foot height limitation with a lower pitched roof from a design and customer appeal standpoint, something that we would like to be able to provide. Please let me know your thoughts and if there's any way to address this. I wrote him back and said that we had discussed this a few months ago. I don't remember exactly when. I think it might have been in the fall, in terms of one of the lots on Hunter's Ridge. And I let him know that we needed to follow state statutes and that it was a long process and that the commission didn't have the authority to even make a minor modification without following the statutes. And that I would bring up his comments tonight. And I also said that if he had a pressing concern and would like to submit an application for a regulation change, to please get in touch with me and I'll work with him on submitting an amendment request application. And I sent him the application. So.
I just want that out there for consideration. Obviously, this is a request from somebody who does business in our town. And then I would ask you to consider the request and then have another conversation at another meeting. Any thoughts on it? And I would encourage anybody who feels, if you feel that I should not weigh in on it, talk to me one-on-one, and I will respect any one of you who comes to me and says, I think you should bow out of this. It's a concern I always had because it was a limitation I felt that we didn't mean to impose on normal lots, sloping lots on normal sized houses. I think a lot of our height limitation regulation is driven by a concern for the lake watershed area.
Trying to think.
It looks pretty romantic at your place, Tom.
I'm trying to come to grips with, I mean, I like the idea of being able to give him the flexibility to do that. I'm just trying to figure out the concern that I would have for opening it up, you know, by setting a precedent, that's all.
Well,
You have to change the regulation.
Right.
It would be a full-blown regulation change.
Yeah.
And I think that's very clear. I think they understood that from the onset. They were just hoping that we would give a perspective on a timely basis, whether we think that that's something the commission might want to do in whatever time frame that we would choose as part of our regulation revision processes.
How much an increase in height would this, if we were to accept the change, how much of an increase from the maximum 35-foot height would this be?
You're talking 3 feet maybe?
I looked in other towns and a lot of them provide for 40-foot residential structures given a lot of considerations, but it varies quite a bit. A lot of towns it is 35 feet. A lot of other towns, especially with, a lot of towns that do a lot of newer subdivisions, there is a provision for 40 feet, but I don't want to overgeneralize about it.
Well, no, my question was if they, for the example they give for the 28-foot depth, and if they do the 12-12 pitch, what height would that be? In other words, are we talking an extra 1 or 2 feet, or are we talking an extra 5 or 10 feet?
Oh, no.
I think it's about an extra 3 feet.
I was thinking 3 feet. That's my.
I think that's my guess as well. It's about 3 feet.
You really
It depends upon the depth of the house.
And the floor-to-floor height.
Right.
Yeah.
Nine ceilings more, and they can fit a 9/12 pitch roof on that given our regulations. They just like a 12/12 pitch roof. They just like the look better.
Hmm.
It only is an issue when the lot is really narrow. There's like only one possible place to put the house. You can't move it left, right, up or down, up the hill, down the hill.
Yeah, that's.
And that's exactly the way Hunter's Ridge is designed. The houses are touching the front setback. Most of the new houses, well, they're all new, are touching the front setback and the rear setback, or within a foot or two. I mean, it's super tight. super tight subdivision. And the problem is on these sloping lots, if you go to 40 feet, the house, and let's say it's the house behind, on an abutting property, it would be a very tall, towering.
I don't think the idea was that we were going to discuss this in a lot of technical depth tonight. I think it was something out there to go on our list to study and decide if we want to put it on our list. And I would ask the commission to weigh in on it. We clearly want to, if we were open to it, we would want to do more research on it. We haven't done that at this point.
No.
It's a request from somebody who's been building houses in town. So it's out there, and we'll see whether we want to fit it into something to at least have a discussion about in the future.
I did put it on the list the last time it was brought up, which was like in the fall or something, and it is on our list of suggested zone changes.
Okay, let's move on from this. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anything commission, communication reports, Paula?
Nope.
Okay, open discussion? Audience of citizens? I make a motion.
Nobody.
Second.
Second.
You did a good job on that, Rich.
Did we? Who was our second?
Rich.
I'll second.
Rich.
Rich.
Okay.
Oh, no? Great.
Yeah, I'm still here.
He beat you.
It's a long day.
Pretty quick.
Flo, do you want to stop the recording, please?